my live stream is being tampered with again, so I had to very quickly end it so that it didn't cut bits off, but it will start doing it again. So if I suddenly end the live stream, it's because it's being tampered with again. But basically, the long and short, so the point that I was making at the end of that last live stream was that nobody checked in on me when I was being beaten by the police and injured by them. They stopped me from having water, going to the toilet. I was actually, they were using my YouTube channel to mock me. These are dangerous thugs. And I would you just got to keep speaking about it. So basically, keep exposing it. Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of evil, but rather expose them, which is what I'm doing. So basically, yeah. So what happened is the long and short of it was what they could have done in the first place, but they didn't. You know, they've got all this technology, they've got the information in front of them, but they have to go through this great big rigmarole. They gave me another leaflet to do with this cafe. There's a cafe in Eastbourne that's called, I've never actually heard of it, so this will actually be helpful, Staying Well. And I've also got the contact of a woman who used to help out at warming up the homeless. So that will be very interesting. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I still haven't read my response from the Charity Commission. But basically, they said that that the Victoria Medical Centre have to have 2 years. They cannot deregister you. I'm on the patient list for 2 years, but for some reason nobody had told me that this walk-in the Beacon Centre is a temporary doctor's practice. And I walked away and I thought, but that still doesn't make any sense. Why didn't Dr. Singh tell me that? Why didn't he tell me that this was a temporary doctor's practice? Why cause me so much distress? Why say you're going to do all these things? You're going to get blood tests. Well, I'll tell you what, I've gone online and I've had a look at patient and staff reviews, and they're appalling. Michelle witnessed what happened with security, and that's being investigated as well. And she said, well, that's put me off registering with them. But they're not even they're a temporary medical centre. So what is going on? They said, well, go and ask Dr. Singh. I'm even afraid to go in there in case they call security. I was telling Chris, the security guard, another security guard who's seen me walking around. He's a northerner and he's been living in Eastbourne all his life, it seems, by the sounds of it, because he knows when it was the Arndale. And he was like, well, I won't use the language he used, but when I was telling him everything, by golly, I passed out on the spot just from telling people. Do you know something? Narcissism is the biggest pandemic. That is the pandemic, and it's the biggest killer. And I tell you what, us chosen ones, super empaths, targeted individuals, whatever you want to call us, call the devil, call a spade, just call it what it is. Evil, it's a spiritual battle. And I tell you what, I just have to lie down. I have to spend most of my time. My hospital bed is a hotel bed, recuperating, trying to I can never ever recover because of all of this shit that's being created, pardon my language. SHIT storms are being brewed up and created. You know, no one's Darren said to me, I don't want to add to your problems 9 years ago. Well, I sincerely hope he isn't the spawn of Satan, because I've had nothing but all this evil done to me, and he's saying it was happening before I was with him. Is he gaslighting me? Because I tell you what, I'd never been arrested before I was with Darren, and Darren's been arrested. Unless Darren's been arrested before, and I don't believe that he has either. Neither of us, we've both had very middle class upbringings, both of us. This is what I'm saying. It's just someone like me and Darren, this is what I'm saying though. The enemy is the master of confusion. And Lucifer, the light bearer, who comes as an angel of light. And that's where your deception is. So it's all there. It's all there. But do you know, I already, with people like this troll, Dan from Police Abusing Powers, I thought I'd never hear from him again. But of course, because I've put something up about paramedics. Yes, that's what the enemy wants to do. They want to use these cowards to get at you when you're at a bad point. So I smile, because when I don't like to make judgments about people and their background or how rough and ready they seem. But I'm very wary of people. I don't even like being around polite company. I need to feel completely, I just don't like being around people. Do you know what? There was a lovely girl in the psychiatric unit, sweet little thing, Emma, and she left a little note for me, and she said, "I'm on your side." Every time she heard me losing it, she'd say, "Cool." She was totally. She felt my anger and frustration. She said, "They don't bloody do anything," and she was a very middle class lady. She was very young, but she was like a younger version of me. But she still had two parents. But she said, "I crave the quiet." And that's me. And you know what? It makes me very sad that they're the people whom I wish I'd asked for their contact. I kept that little note. It's in my passport with my birth certificate. And Eastbourne Borough Council, you bastards, you went in there and you illegally got Pelican Storage to go in and take my things out. Do you know what? If I've been told by the paramedics and by this mental health nurse in Crawley to get everything in writing, because what these doctors' surgeries have done is illegal. I already know that. You have to have at least a year to deregister someone. But with the Victoria Medical Centre, it's 2 years. So if they've gone and done the dirty on me, they're in big doodah. So Dr. Singh, who is going to get my blood tests and say, well, we've got people who can help with OCD. We can do this, we can do that. But don't talk about anything legal. Right, well, don't do anything illegal then. Because I've heard it all before. I'm so sorry that you've had this experience. The only consistency is with the lies. And that's what I said to that lovely gentleman who was working in triage at A&E. I said, the only consistency is the lies. I've been horrifically mentally and physically abused, both by police, security guards, and in the psychiatric unit. And I had abuse when I did paid care work, and it made me physically ill. But you know who the people are who are listening, I can tell you that. So, like I said, I'm going to end this live stream now. That's basically the be all and end of all of it. So, crisis team, pardon me, they went to A&E, the desk, and they said what really should have been said by this mental health nurse. I mean, if he's got evidence of text messages that were sent to me from my phone from another town, and he's from another town in another county, but he couldn't answer me a question that could have been answered But I had to get another set of paramedics out to me because I can't ring NHS 111. It is absolute insanity. And you know what? I say to people, I say, if this is how they can treat someone like me who's decent, then they deserve all the abuse that they get. And, you know, we are now in a time, and a lot of people are saying this, a lot of YouTubers are saying, and I've forgotten what the phrasing is, but the UK is under, I can't remember the words, the scriptural words, but loads of you people are saying this. The UK is like reaping, like, excuse my poor wording, but reaping the reparation of basically the wrath of Yahweh. You know, years of idolatry and you know, sin. And I'm sorry, I can't find the I can't articulate the words. I can't remember what these YouTubers have said, but a lot of people are saying that basically we're under a great time of suffering here in the UK because we're paying our debts for all the sin and idolatry and all that stuff. So, you know, I've got to purge it, right, basically. You know, you've seen me talking about astrology, and which I often still talk about, because I renounced it. You know, I don't, you know, but it never goes away, you know. So it's, you know, when you've been heavily into something, it doesn't go away. The spirit of it is kind of there, even though I'm not thinking it. Like if I know your birthday or your star sign or whatever, I will see the spirit, this thing, you know, even though I don't, you know, I've renounced it. Yeah, you know what I mean? So anyway, I've already explained everything. So I've said what's happened here. So I need to basically find out what's going on with this doctor's surgery business, and because I'm still actually should not have been registered. They have to. I'm on the system for 2 years. They can't just. So, but they. This is just it though. They can't do the same thing that the Lighthouse Medical Practice have done, because it's illegal. You cannot deregister a patient. But Dr. Caro, that lying turd, who is and Dr. Woolhouse, who lied to me saying that he'd write a letter to the council. I knew that there was something not right about him. He was very shifty, the way he was. When I was talking to someone on the desk, he was very paranoid. He came out of his office and he was like, he was immediately on. And I thought, oh, all right, there's something not right with him. There's just something not right, especially when this doctor had said to me 2 years ago that he was on my side, that I was being messed around by community connectors. And he sounded paranoid because I said I'd been to my late father's estate. Oh, your lawyer. Not right behavior. And but the weird thing is, I had just had Derek, the practice manager of the Lighthouse practice, say to me in front of Terry, my elderly acquaintance, I'd had him say to me, we can contact your MP caseworker, but not the MP. So then I then asked Dr. Caro in front, when I've just spoken, when Derek has just said this, he then says to me, threatens us with police, when I said, would you contact Ewan Morrison, the MP caseworker? So the local authorities have not been acting by law for me. And now I'm dealing with a third corrupt law firm that is exploiting me under legal aid, but I don't want to talk about it because that evil devil woman, the landlady, Alice Victoria Scott, might be watching me. So I don't want to talk about that, but it's being investigated, let's just say. And I'm doing this all on my own. And Darren, I need you to be honest with me about things, because I was actually crying earlier. So anyway, I'm going to end this live stream, and I've said everything I want to say, but the message is always the same. It never changes. My message to Josh Babarinde, Eastbourne Borough Council: you've got my blood on your hands. I was saying to paramedics in distress, I said, if I do myself in, I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. Because they drive you nuts. They keep asking the same questions. Do you have a suicide plan? I said, the suicide plan is always there. It's so boring. It's word salad, yeah? Word games. Do you have a suicide plan? It's always there. It's called suicide ideation. These people are supposed to understand mental health, are they not? And I'm having to say every single freaking fucking time. And we're going round in circles. Yeah, don't I? No, they're just driving you nuts. They want you to go nuts. That's what they want. So I say, I tell you what, no one's ever going to help me. I've had all these problems created. If I do go and do myself in, I said to the paramedics, I will get all these pieces of paper, and I showed them. I said, I will lay it out all on the bed with a suicide note or whatever. The gifts that I've still got for Darren from this time last year, they're still here, the bag of gifts for Darren. And I will lay it all out, and you will have the evidence on my amateur YouTube channel of what these crooks have done to me. Because if they're never going to help me, either way, the evidence is there. And Josh, who makes out he's a victim of my YouTube channel, when I actually had someone live in America watching me live in the early hours being attacked, look up that. If you go to my YouTube channel and you look up evidence of licensees attacking me in my home, evidence of licensees attacking me, there's blood on my door, there's a drunk attacking me, and there's someone live in the US watching in the early hours saying, your cops didn't do anything. I thought our cops were useless. No, because they were arresting me, the victim. Because that's what they do here in the UK. There are no men here. God, my mother had the choice of real men. My mother was engaged to an American airman, according to my middle sister. And well, she told me she was engaged to an Irish alcoholic until she was told that Irish and alcohol don't go well together. Alcoholism and Irish don't go well. So even though there's Irish on my father's side anyway, but he wasn't an alcoholic, my father. But yeah, the days when men were men, eh? When men were men. And then my generation were programmed to be men. I actually had a female police officer say, I've got to be the man in the relationship. No, if I wanted to be the man in the relationship, I would have had a sex change. I told these people that, sorry, I was about to say something else. I had a Dr. Innes Cameron say that me and my transgender sister need trauma-based therapy. I've had nothing but trauma, and I'm a rape victim. What, the police handcuffing me because I said some hurty words? Oh dear. Did I upset PC McCarthy so much? much that he had to call my partner a cunt. That's the only reason why PC McCarthy was called to Darren's flat, because he wanted to see what Darren looked like. No, I'm sorry, this is for PC McCarthy, not for my partner. PC McCarthy didn't like it because I called him an effing idiot because he had just hit a bollard. He had hit a concrete bollard on our world-famous suicide spot because he was so full of rage. He had just dragged me off the cliff. The beachy head chaplains were the ones who were concerned, of course. Intel say you want to take us off the cliffs with you. And he was so full of rage that he hit a concrete bollard. You couldn't handle that, could you? So you had to use my partner, Darren. You wanted to try and get to me by calling my partner a cunt. And it was my birthday. Yes, 2 years ago, you did this to me on my birthday. And I just got news that my father had died. Little dinky doos. But you can't even see your dinky do because you're too overweight, aren't you? you can't even see over your belly. But you can't even chase a real criminal, can you? I've seen footage of what some of you are like. But even your bald-headed thug, there's not much going on up here, is there? There's not much going on anywhere. That's why you're chosen to do the jobs that you're doing, because you're not real police officers. You're not serving the public. And that 94-year-old veteran, he wonders, was it worth dying for you, for your freedom? Was it worth his fellow veterans, pardon me, dying for your freedoms? Anyway, that's me done. I know I never wear a poppy anymore, and I know I should do. I haven't worn a poppy since I was still at school, I think. I know, isn't that shameful? But I don't buy into all of this, because that veteran, before he died, he said, well, who was the real enemy? Yeah? I wonder what Mark Devlin would have to say about that. Tavistock Institute, possibly. I mean, I've always had this kind of thinking since I was a child, and I'm 43. I always thought that there was a programming going on. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, talking about programming, it is a bit weird, isn't it? That they, that they didn't tell me that the Beacon Centre, that Dr. Singh didn't tell me that it was a temporary clinic. But then to say that I'm on a program, that I've been put on a register in another town, it's just weird. Anyway, there we go. I'm done. That's me done. Over and out.